Hello there. I'm Scotty. You're not. Look good in my shades. Anyway, right glasses back on. Orphan first kill. Where do I begin with this movie? So I went in with very low expectations. Because you know me, I'm not a big fan of prequels because everything is very obvious. You know that a character is going to survive all the way through the end. You know that probably most of the characters, other new characters introduced, are going to die. Or something. And yeah, this film does that. But halfway through, they present a twist that I still don't know how I feel about. To me, it sort of feels like, oh, the first one had a big twist. And, you know, the guy who directed this, William Brent Bell, I think his name is, he directed The Boy, which also had a good twist in it. So, there's that, but it felt like, well, the first one had a twist, so let's put a twist in this one. And I don't know, it came out of nowhere, and it caught me off guard, and I really don't know where I stand with this twist, which we'll get to, but I'll tell you what, it took my expectations for the film and raised them up a little bit after that. I was like, okay, you got me, but I don't know. I even thought, is there going to be a twist or is this going to be generic? And I will say, up until that point, I was sitting there watching this going, this feels like it's almost the same film. There's this opening that tells you stuff you already know. She's at the mental institution. She breaks out, and then she finds a family that takes her in. Everything they laid out in the first one, right? So I'm like, okay, now we're just repeating stuff in the first one. She's connecting with the father. She's going to fall in love with him. We're going to, even to the point where the mom gets suspicious. I'm like, okay. And, that had me at first because so the beginning of this has this psychiatrist lady in Estonia showing up. I'm like, okay, we're doing something different here. She's going to be the character that knows, Esther's going to escape. She's going to go after her. She's going to know something's going on. And she's going to be one to try to stop her. No, because they presented like that's going to happen. But then Esther shows up at her house, kills her, and then looks up this family and figures out where she's going to go. And she gets into this family who lost their daughter Esther, because her real name is Lena. And she, because she looks kind of like this Esther girl, and she's just going to go in there to an already established family and take over as Esther. And from that point on, it seems very basic. Okay, we're doing this over and over again, even down to the point where the mom is suspicious. And you have a doctor that's suspicious, much like, the nun from the first one. I had to kill her because she was going to tell on me. You're not going to tell on me, are you? That sort of thing. But in this one, there's only an older brother, and the mom and the dad. And the mom is played by Julia Stiles. The dad is Ralph Sutherland, who you may know from movies like Timeline and Possessor. Possessor? Is that what it's called? The one with... Yeah, Possessor. I'll show you what I mean. This weird ass movie. It came out like last year, whatever it was. A couple years ago. Yeah, Possessor. Possessor. Whatever. Yeah, he was in that. I like the actor. Some decisions with his character. Like, for the story, it's supposed to be about, her falling in love with the father. He's kind of absent from a bit, and it's due to the twist that they have. So now they have to kind of distance him from the rest of the family for the twist, and it's like now he's just not around a lot, and then he shows up at the end, and something happens, and it's like, but there was a couple of scenes that established, oh, like she draws him, and then they get closer, but they're nothing like with Peter in the first film where they get close and stuff, and he's taking her side and everything. There's none of that. And a lot of people complained that the dad in that was just so insufferable, not, believing anything that Kate said in that movie, which is understandable. But if that was too much, this was so not enough that this guy could do. There's like nothing, And that's due to the twist, because you can't just have the mom say, with the twist that we have, you can't just have her. Okay, I gotta tell you the twist. So, spoiler alert, and I'm saying this right now. If you haven't seen the movie, stop watching this review. Go watch the movie on Paramount Plus. Trust me on this. Go watch it. Because you do not want this twist spoiled for you, okay? So I'll give you a little bit. Go watch it. Leave. Go watch the movie. Alright. So if you're still here, I'm assuming you either don't care if you get spoiled, which you should. This is a twist that just... Or you've seen it and you're okay with, So they reveal. So at a certain point, this doctor, played by this guy I've seen in other things. I just don't know why. He's this Japanese guy. I've seen him in a lot of other things. He's this doctor, and he shows up, and he steals this record that Esther has been listening to. Esther sees him do this and follows him back to his house, and is going to kill him. And she says, "How did you figure it out? Even Mummy doesn't know." And he's like, "Oh, she knows, believe me." And then all of a sudden he gets shot, and it's the mom. And then it's revealed, teeny tiny fly, a gnat, it's revealed that the older brother, Gunnar, maybe accidentally, killed the real Esther. So they covered it up to make it look like she was kidnapped. And so when this Esther took her place, they just kind of went with it. Knowing, and if you look back, once you do the twist review, you look back, she's a little, abrasive. The somewhat like nothing to do with her. And even to the point where this guy shows up, he's having a party and smoking weed, he doesn't care. And he's like off put to her, she doesn't fuck off or whatever, and he's like, "You get back in the house," and he's not treating her like she's his sister, so he knows. And once the reveal happens, it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. The dad doesn't realize this though, and so they keep it from him. And like I said, because they keep this from him, they sort of then separate those three characters from the dad. The dad's off doing whatever the fuck, and these three are off, oh, I got you now. And it becomes that sort of, this is why I'm kind of unsure, because it's in that kind of vein of taking horror villains and trying to make them sympathetic. They tried that with Leatherface in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remakes. They did it with The Blind Man and did it with Her. But then in the back of your head, you also got to remember, well, this isn't going to go well for these new characters because it's a prequel. And that's another thing that kind of brings it down for me, is that it's a prequel. So even with all this stuff, oh no, what's she going to do now? Well, wait a minute. This is a prequel. She's going to get out of it. And if you're thinking, is this the one they talk about in the first movie about the house fire? And it does end up being that. Well, then, they're all going to die. So with a prequel, there's no tension. There's even a point where this final act happens. She kills Gunnar, and then her and the mom are going, like, first of all, Gunnar, pushes her down the stairs, and he's like, oh no. And she's like, oh, great. But then you are sitting there knowing this is a prequel going, she's not dead. She's not dead. And then they do the thing where they sweep back and she's gone, and it's like, well, yeah, duh. she's not dead because it's a prequel. And so then she kills Gunnar, and they do this thing in the kitchen too where she's gone, and I'm like, how does that work? Because she like gets knocked behind the counter, and when the mom goes around, she's gone. I'm like, how did she not hear her leave? It's not like Michael Myers falling off the house and then looking over, he's gone. No, it's just around the corner. How does that work? But yeah, and then we get to the big ending here with so the house starts on fire due to all this struggling. The house starts on fire. This is when we realize, oh, this is the house fire they mentioned from the first one. Okay. By this point, the brother is dead, and the dad has already said he's on his way back home from wherever the hell he was. And so they make their way onto the roof as the house is starting to burn and go aflame, which... and then they both end up knocking themselves onto the, what do you call it, hanging off the edge there. They're both there. So the dad comes up, goes through the window, crawls up, and you think, okay, he's going to have to choose, right? Who's he going to choose? And he's going to choose Esther because she's the little girl, right? In his head. But before he can even make the choice, the mom just falls and dies. Brains on the thing, dies. And I'm like, okay. And then so then he pulls Esther up and then like hug, and then he does this thing where he, because like the mom says, oh, she's not really Esther. She's a grown woman or whatever. And he's like got her face and it pushes out the fake teeth, which, okay, I don't understand how. Did he do that on purpose? Was it an accident? I don't know. Was he testing out? I don't know. I don't understand. But she figures it out, and then it looks like maybe it's an accident where he falls. It looks like he falls backwards, but he ends up landing. Maybe he doesn't. He ends up landing right next to his wife, lying dead. Now, I remember the first one they said that everyone else but Esther was found dead in the house. But they're outside the house. So how do they make that assumption that the fire killed them all? They're lying outside the house. Are they supposed to, did she tell a story like, oh, they were climbing off the roof to escape and they fell? Then where were you? How did you know this? You know, or by the time, no, because they're there when she walks out. So I really don't understand how she would explain how they're outside, splattered dead on the outside of the house, but she's perfectly fine. And she's like changing her clothes and grabbing a little diary thing and putting the ribbons on her wrist and stuff. And like the fire, she's not catching fire at all, but she's walking through the house. She's not going because of the smoke. I don't understand. I don't know. It's just like, oh, well, she's going to live anyway because this is a prequel, so let's just not have her coughing or anything. But she's still a human being for what she has. But yeah, that's the basic. That's the plot for you. But there's a couple other things. So like I said, because the dad's not there most of the time, it feels different, and it feels like they said, okay, people complained about how the dad was too much, believing her, so they just, or maybe it's because the twist that has to be kind of separate. But there should, you're supposed to be telling the story of how she fell in love with the dad, and they only share like maybe 4 scenes together, and that's barely anything. For then at the end, I love you, Ellen, and it's like, really? In the like 10 minutes total you were around him that we saw? Okay. Maybe more than 10, but it's just from what I saw, from what the film shows, maybe it's more because it's not like continuously, but I don't know, it just, but I did like, how they did this. They had like, much like they did for Millie Bobby Brown in season 4 of Stranger Things, they had a shorter actress for the behind shots and the lower shots, and they also had some shots where actors were wearing like with the shoes that go high up, and stuff like that. And yeah, and with the actress being 25 years old, they could do more with her, than they could when she was actually at like 12, 13 in the first one, and now she's, you know, over 18. She can do more, which is why I think some of the stunt things I think she did, she could do more, and then that, and like there's a scene towards the end where she's steals the mom's car and is driving, and then she like puts makeup on and she's smoking. I don't know if that was necessary, but because I don't know, you don't really see that in the other one. But again, she was a child then. Now she's an adult, so maybe And there's even a situation at the beginning where she kind of bribes her way out with this the security guard or whatever at the institute that she's in comes in, and he gives her this package, and then she's like, "I want to thank you. Come in here." And then she like stands a chair up, and it looks like she's going to kiss him, but then she kills him. And it's like, okay, if this, now that we know that she's like a dwarf with, that's actually 31 at this point, that's not as creepy as when it was actually a 13-year-old girl in the last one. You could do, like I said, you could do more, and that, that works for this movie. But yeah, overall, I did like it, but I felt like it was less than the first one. So I'm gonna give it the middle of the road for me, because the twist really just kind of made me go, I don't know. I liked the twist in the first one, and this felt like we have to put a twist in here. So they did this because they had to do the twist. The dad was then separated from the plot. It was just on a random trip at the end, when the whole focus is supposed to be about her falling in love with the dad. I want to be with the dad. It just, I don't know. But, And one last thing I want to say is that, like, the end of this, I was expecting, like, a big lead-in to the first one. Because while they say they're gonna, if this one makes money, because that's what it's all about nowadays, they're gonna work on a third one. I don't know where they would go with that, because this seems like a perfect lead-in to the first one, unless they do another prequel, which I feel would be missing the point almost. Unless you then do a sequel and you explain that she survived getting kicked in the fucking head and a broken neck, falling into the, I don't know. I really don't know how you do that. I don't know. But yeah, it's the middle of the road. So, what are your thoughts on Orphan First Kill? And then we'll come slow. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I've been Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.